can.
Okay. So say your name for the camera.
Lucie, Paula, Mariska, Fuscaldo.
And where were you born?
And in Germany on October the 12th, 1926. In Nordenham, Germany. Yeah.
And did your parents tell you anything about the day you were born?
No.
No? And what's your very first memory?
I don't remember.
Did you share a bedroom?
Yes, with two other girls, my two older sisters.
Okay, and so what were the names of your siblings?
Annalisa, the oldest.
Mm-hmm.
The second one was Rola, R-O-L-A, and then came me.
Okay.
And then came a boy after that.
And what's your brother's name?
Gerold.
Who was more strict, your mother or your father?
Sick?
Strict.
My mother.
Okay. Do you have a vivid memory of something you did that you got in trouble for?
Yeah, being home late for dinner.
And what did your mom do?
She smacked me. I had to go to the bed. We had a big bathroom, and she took me in there, and she would give me a swat.
Okay.
But I would get it anyhow, whether I was 10 minutes late or then I figured might as well be an hour late.
How did your family earn money?
My family didn't have to earn any money. My father worked.
Okay.
He was a carpenter, a fine furniture maker.
Okay. And what was your father's name?
Lajos Hegedus, Hungarian.
Okay. And were you close with him?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I loved him.
What was your dad like?
He's lovable and huggable, and all that. Well, Mom is stricter. She's, she doesn't hug and kiss and all that stuff.
Okay.
But my father did.
Do you have a favorite memory of your dad?
Favorite? No, just everything. I used to love, he had in the house where we lived, he had a big shop downstairs.
Uh-huh.
And I used to love to go there and smell the wood because everything he made was hand carved and, he just, and I used to love to go there. And he always had chocolates or something like that. Well, my mother would never think of that.
Okay.
Food, that was it,
Okay. So what kind of things did your family spend money on?
I wouldn't know. On food.
Okay.
We had a place to live.
Mm-hmm.
We had a place outside the town where my father had half an acre, and he took care of all that with vegetables and fruit, lots of fruit trees he had, and all that stuff.
Okay. What do you have a favorite memory of your mom?
My favorite? No, I can't think of it really. Just she was always there, and she was telling me, she was teaching me how something had to be cleaned.
Okay. Do you have a sibling that you were the closest with?
Yeah, I think my sister Rola, because she was 4 years younger than I was. Annalisa, my older sister, was 6 years. She was older already, and she's a smart girl. She went to a special, what they call high school. We don't have a high school in Germany. Now they do. When you're 14, it's in elementary school. You can graduate. You get your diploma. And if you wanted to go to high school or whatever, prep school, we call it gymnasium, which is not a gymnasium where you hop around or whatever, And, that was about it.
Okay. So you were the closest with Rola?
Yeah.
Okay.
And she wasn't the smartest either, so I could boss her around. And my brother, too. My mother always thought my brother was God. After 3 girls, she finally gets a boy, 15 months after me, I said, hey, hi, Mom, I'm still over here, And I had to help her with his schoolwork, So said, God, he used to kick him under the table. And my mother would she'd give me a smack. She said, cut it out. Leave that boy alone. I said, well, he's so dumb. He's doof. Stupid. You know.
How would you describe yourself as a child?
Rebellious.
Okay.
Oh, I was always.
So give me an example. How are you rebellious?
Well, if I wanted to go somewhere and I was supposed to be home at a certain hour, you know, I wouldn't. My mother would hang out the window and just, oh God, here I'm going to get it again, you know. I hope my grandmother is going to intervene or my father, but he wasn't home then. But I was trying to make my own time all the time, you know.
So what would you do when you were out?
Meet my friends.
And what would you and your friends do?
I don't know. Go to the beach.
Okay.
Go to the parks, you know, those things like that.
So you were saying your grandmother lived with you guys?
Oh, yeah.
So how did that happen? Did she always live with you guys?
Yes, as far as, yeah. She was always there living with my mother. When they got married, she was already there because her husband was a seaman. And he got lost at sea.
Oh my gosh.
And so my mother was a Reinhardt. And, you know, then so she came to live with my mother and us, you know. And then I remember her having a stroke, but I loved her. She was was a sweetheart.
Well, so what else was she like? Do you have a memory of your grandmother?
Yeah, always. She was always sweet and, you know. And I used to say, God, that's your child you produced. She nothing like you.
Okay. So where were your parents from?
My mother was right around the corner by the North Sea.
Okay.
That's where she was born. All the family came from there. And my father was born in Hungary.
Okay. And how did your father get to Germany?
He could, there were always revolution?
There you go.
Yeah, yeah. I can't even think of it. And communist country, you know. So he got away from there.
Okay.
He just wandered out and wandered into Germany from south all the way up to north and met my mother.
Do you know how they met?
I don't know how they met, but I don't know how my father ever hooked up with my mother.
How long were they together for? Do you know?
I don't know. Before that, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know exactly when they met. It was in a 18 something.
Oh wow.
Still.
Okay.
You know, or early 19. Must have been early 19, before the First World War. But my father had nothing to do with that because he wasn't a German, you know. He wasn't, it's not like nowadays where you can, anybody can go volunteer, you know.
Yeah. So tell me, growing up in Germany when you did, can you remember what it was like before World War II started? And what it was like after?
Oh, yeah.
What was it like before?
Before is, well, I sort of grew up in the Hitler time. Hitler became chancellor in 1933.
Okay.
By 1936, I was 10 years old. And that's all that was pumped into us. Hitler. Hitler is God. Well, and when you're that young, you think, oh, he must be all right, you know. And then when we were when we were 14, we had to join the Hitler Youth.
Okay.
The boys were, you know, I forgot even, not Boy Scouts, but you had to go and wear uniforms, you know, and the girls too.
So was there a specific, didn't you have to say something in school? What was the phrase that you guys had to say?
Oh, yeah, Heil Hitler.
And then wasn't there a thing today?
And before school started, but in our school there was like the higher grades, other grades, and the first one. We don't have kindergarten in.
Okay.
You start at age of 6, first day of school, you know, and every morning before school, and they all started at the same time. We had to move in a courtyard, all the classes, and we had to line up. We knew exactly where to go, and we had to sing. Deutschland, Deutschland über alles, which means Germany, Germany above everything. You know, Deutschland, Deutschland über alles in the world. And then it keeps, and then another one with the SR marching, you know. And we had to stand there like that. And you better not do this, because after a while your arm kind of gets tired, you know. And then we could go in, and you always greeted anybody with Heil Hitler.
Wow. So you were talking about school. So what do you remember about school?
I liked school, but even there I was very interruptive. You know, you had to, you know, like this.
Raise your hand?
And I, you know, many times I blurted out the answers, because I was like, come on. I must have thought everybody must be stupid in this place. They don't know the answer. So I blurted out and say, and then my teacher would say, Lucie, get out. I had to go outside and stand in a hall. Because, and anybody who sees you out there said, she must have done something, you know. And then I used to pretend, because our coats were hanging there, you know. And I used to pretend I was looking for my coat. But they all caught up with me. I said, I know you're standing out there. You did something. Fräulein Siedenburg didn't like your answer, or you answered when you're not supposed to. You're supposed to raise your hand. That's it. Not go like this.
So did you have a favorite teacher?
Yeah, that's my favorite. And then we had singing, and I always had the high. That was another teacher who played the violin. We didn't even have a piano there, and he would teach us. I never learned how to read notes, but I was the high. When you had a song, there were three: the high and the low. So what do you call it? You harmonized.
Yeah.
And I always had the high voice, because I had a good voice. And,
Yeah?
You know, not anymore.
When did you stop singing?
Huh?
When did you stop singing?
Oh, long time ago. I mean, even when I was younger, here I used to say, now, crackers, you know. You don't forget, you lose all that.
Okay. So what did you were talking about, you were like as a child, what did you like to eat? Did you have anything that was like your favorite?
I like bread.
Yep.
I hated vegetables,
Mm-hmm.
and my mother forced me to eat it.
Okay.
You know, but I had to, you know, because vegetables was our thing my father took care of, and when he came home from the garden, you know, and you had to walk, that was probably a couple of miles.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he did all that after he did his work, you know, and all that stuff. But, yeah, I forgot what I was saying now.
You're talking about your favorite foods?
Yeah, I liked meat, but this, you know, my mother made nice roasts, and we had chicken, and we call it not Frankfurter, a hamburger. What do we call a hamburger? A real crazy name. I'll think of it later.
Okay.
I can't think of. But that kind, I never cared for vegetables.
Okay.
And my mother made a lot of soups. Yeah, but sturdy soup, I mean something that stuck to your bones, you know. And she always says, you're too skinny. I used to be so skinny. She used to call me string bean. Bohnenstange. You're thin like a Bohnenstange. Nothing on the sides, nothing in the front, nothing, you know, just like that. I said, you're going to stay like that forever if you don't start eating and put things. And then, of course, after the war, you couldn't buy anything anymore, you know.
Yeah. Did you have any other nicknames besides String Bean? Did anybody else have nicknames for you besides?
No, my mother just did. Lulu.
Lulu.
Yeah, nobody called me Lucie. Lucie isn't really a German name. I don't know where they get that from. It's more like British, you know,
Okay.
when I think about it now. But no, Lulu.
Who started calling you Lulu first? Do you remember?
Oh, my mother. Even when once I moved to the States and my mother would write, it's always Liebe Lulu. Dear Lulu. She always called me Lulu, and everybody else there called me Lulu. You know, people I hadn't seen when I went back the first time. I said, my God, nobody has called me Lulu in a long time, you know. No.
What did your dad call you? Did he call you Lulu, or did he have a special name for
No,
you?
he called me Lulu too, you know.
Okay.
He always called me his little Zigeuner, which means his little gypsy.
Why would he call you that?
My mother meant it. She was going to give me away to the gypsies if I don't start behaving. In those days, she used to scare me. The gypsies go around begging or something, you know. And I said, you know, they like to take children. You don't behave yourself. I'm going to give it to those Zigeuners. It's a Zigeuner, you know, the gypsy. But I always just like to wander off and talk to strangers, you know. Nobody else in the family did that. That's what I mean, a weird one in a family.
Did you have any pets growing up?
A cat.
What was your cat's name? Do you remember? Do you remember what the cat looked like?
Yeah, she was black with a white bib and white paws. And I used to play with it I had a little carriage, you know, my doll carriage. I used to put the cat in there. And once a year, that cat, and it was a house. It wasn't an outdoor cat. And when she had to go outside on the balcony, we had a sandbox where she would go, you know. But then sometimes you could tell she meow, meow, meow. She wanted to screw around, I guess.
Okay.
I better delete that
I can
one.
delete that. Don't worry.
And you know, it's just then she had the babies.
Okay.
You know, she usually had about 4 or so, but we always found somebody who adopted them. We never had to get rid of any, you know.
Okay.
But that cat we had a long time. But after that, once she died, we never had any more, you know. And then we were all kind of grown up and nobody wanted to take care of it, you know.
Okay. So, do you remember anything about the house that you grew up in?
What, like what?
Well, is there anything about it that sticks out to you? Is there anything that you remember?
No, I know it was a beautiful kitchen. It was a big kitchen. Like that's what we call here now a eat-in kitchen. A big table. We didn't have a special dining room, you know. Big table. You could put 12 around it. And with a big bench that my father had made all carved and so with pillows on it, you know. And when we didn't have company, you know, only half of it was used there. Because when we had company, my brother and I had to sit at a children's table. Oh, I used to hate that. My mother had everything all set, you know, with fancy glasses. They had wine, you know, and we get the glasses too. And my mother said, I said, this isn't wine, this is water. I already knew by then. And she said, that's what you call Gänsewein, goose wine. Goose wine is water. I said, oh, who do you think you're fooling?
Did you guys have parties often?
No, at birthdays.
Okay.
You know, and my mother's brother, Uncle Robert, he was a captain in the Navy, that uniform there. They lived in Bremerhaven in a real fancy town, you know, with the elevators and all that. And then there was another one that was related. I forgot how she was related to us. They owned a big clothing store. And they would, you know, when something was going out of style, she always would, and that was in Bremerhaven, you know, but then it took a long time to ship something like you think it had to go to Timbuktu, you know. But that's why we were always the best dressed girls in town. Because my grandmother was a seamstress also.
Oh.
And she made was handmade and measured, you know. And when she died, my mother, and that was the old-fashioned wasn't even electric, the machine then.
Oh, the pedal.
The pedal one. Nobody had, I don't think anybody ever heard of one. So, but she learned how,
Okay.
Okay.
Wow. So you were talking about things that you wear. Was there any, you're talking about loving, being really close with your dad and being close with your grandmother. Was there anybody in particular that you looked up to growing up?
Up to in particular, I don't think so.
No?
No.
Okay.
As a kid then, we looked up to Hitler. And we didn't find out until the war started. Because we started that whole business, Hitler did, by invading Poland.
Yeah.
And of course we won it. Poland, according to Germany, is like this, and Germany is like that, And, there were a lot of Germans living in, there was the border between Germany and Poland was like a corridor. You know what a corridor is,
yep.
Right? Yeah. And that when we won the war, it was always ours. When we lose the war, it goes back to Poland. Those poor people, they didn't know whether they should speak Polish or they should, And then, of course, all that came out later when Hitler did what he did to the Jews, all the Jewish people,
So tell me more about that. What was it like being in Germany during World War II? What do you remember the most?
Oh yeah, sure. For one thing, you couldn't get any food. Everything was rationed except salt. What the hell can you do with salt? Can't drink it. You can't make something out of it. So, and one egg a month we would get. A gal is only allowed milk at a certain time when she was after, like my sister, when she was pregnant, after she had the baby, she had to go to the doctor and prove that she was still nursing.
Which sister?
Hola.
Okay.
My other sister lost her, and then she died very young. Kidney failure. Yeah, that was.
Wow. So the doctor had to make sure that your sister
Oh
was
yeah, and then
still
she
nursing.
would get milk, even so she wasn't really then nursing anyway. He must have been going on 3. I don't know how the hell she managed to squeeze that milk out of there, unless the doctor kind of cheated there too,
So tell me more about growing up in Germany. Tell me what were some of your favorite things to do? I know you said you hung out with your friends and you'd go to the beach.
Yeah, I know, but mostly then during the war. Don't forget, then the war already started.
Yeah.
And we had to, the elite group of men already left Poland. And then we started invading Russia. And that's where we lost most of our good men. Our climate wasn't used to Siberia. Most of them just froze to death there, you know.
So how did your life change? I mean, what was when the war started? When did it really impact you? You were talking about the rationing.
Oh,
what else happened?
And then when finally, don't forget, we were already fighting with England. Then the bombing started, and we all had to build. By then, everybody had already built a shelter, and they had outdoor bunkers if you didn't have a cellar where you could go to, or you could go to the bunkers and sit that out, and then wait for the, everything is over, instead of alarm, they had so that was finished. Otherwise, it goes like a police, like that.
So what was it like? I mean, because you're not 100% German, and Hitler was kind of looking for anyone that was different than him. So how did that impact you?
But I was still, in my mother's family, they could prove back till the 1700 that they were of Aryan descent.
So you had to prove that for Hitler.
Oh yeah, not that far, but at least 3 generations or whatever. And there were Reumanns, Reinhards, and Dietrichs. All that name was, and a gang there. And, other than that, and my father died before the States got into the war. What was that,
We were in 1941, we were bombed.
41?
Yeah, December of 41. We
Oh,
were
yeah.
bombed in
All
Pearl
right.
Harbor.
My father died in 1939.
Okay.
And come to think of it, in retrospect, God knows what could have happened to him. But with all the things that we found out after, because we didn't know anything about his family. A name like Higidus, people thought, what kind of a name is that? And then I used to say, when I belonged to the Hitler Youth, I said, God, why can't I just be a Reinhardt, an old German name, or Meyer, or anything like that, Higidus, somebody said. And what's your father's first name? I used to say Ludwig, Louis. It's Lajos, Lajos, which comes down to, I guess, something like Louis or Ludwig. In German, we would say Ludwig,
Wow. So how did your dad pass away?
But Dad, he had a cancer. I think it was cancer of the liver. But my father never, you never saw him with a drink, never. When nobody drank then, he drank beer, But maybe once a year when we had a feast somewhere on the outside of the skirt, there was a big market. Well, once a year they had. And my father would go and buy for my mom a Lebkuchenhart, which is a heart made out of honey bread, something, cake, like the taste that you have Christmas time, and it would have something nice to say, and a ribbon you can hang it, and and then he would have one beer. My mother could smell it. She'd tell him, "Get out of here." She didn't want anything to do with him. That really stunk,
Yeah. So how old was your dad in 1939? How old was he when he passed away?
It's just about. God, I have to look that over now. 18.
Was he like in his 40s?
40, early 40s,
So was when he passed away, was it really unexpected, or was he sick for a while?
No, he wasn't sick. Well, if he was, he wouldn't. See, they blamed that on his work too, because he did a lot of all his carving by hand and always pressed, all this over here. I don't know what that has to do with it. But so when I heard that, that was awful. And my father was Catholic.
Oh.
And I never met a Catholic before. They're all Protestants.
Did you go to church growing up?
No. Well, yes, we had a confirmation. And I thought that was disgusting. We had to, but we were then 14. It's not it's not like the Catholic Church, but you had to drink the wine, and everybody drank out of the same glass. I said, that's disgusting.
That is disgusting.
Yeah, we never went to church, but everybody was baptized.
Okay. All right. So let's fast forward a little bit. So what was your first job? Did you have a job when you were a teenager, or was your first job when you...
No. Then 14, then I went to another school for 2 years, to the gymnasium, but that you have to pay for. See, and my brother, he went finally too. He was smart enough because he became an engineer, aerial. Yeah, because we had built airplanes right along the river there. That's why we were constantly being bombed too. But our town, got away with it pretty good. Our house was never, hit or anything like that. But it's, that was tough,
What was it like when your brother was drafted? Because he was young, wasn't he? What was it like for you when that happened?
Huh?
What was it like for you when your brother was
We
drafted?
couldn't understand it.
How old was he?
Just about 15. Well, that's what Hitler said. Planes used to go around with flyers coming down and I got the book on it there. Somebody wrote a book about it. And it said on there, when you want to 14 even, wenn du 14 du bist ein Mann. When you're 14, you're already a man. And you had to go. And that was just about, by the time they got to the French border, the war was over and they were taking prisoners there.
Who, your brother was taken prisoner?
Oh, yeah. But then by then the Americans, and it was good, and then the French took over. And he had too much to say about that. So, but he never saw any combat. They were never trained. They didn't know how to shoot a rifle. You know.
How long was your brother held as a prisoner?
Oh, that I don't remember. I just remember when he came home.
And what was that like?
And he just wanted, something that my mother made, homemade, And that was her kid, That was God to her. Yeah, she loves him. Well, she loved all of us, but the boy was something special, I guess.
Did you know he was coming home? Did he write a letter, or did he just show up one day?
No mail, no nothing went through.
He just showed up? So were you excited? Because you guys are really close in age.
All of a sudden, we got up and the door, but we had the thing that goes, and on the outside. And I said, oh, look at it. I think my mother answered the door. It's a wonder she didn't faint. Yeah.
Wow.
He went back to school, and all. And he got in education in. Then the occupation, the Americans, all the combat soldiers were sent home because then the occupation came in. Needless to say, they went through combat like my late husband, and he went from Africa to Sicily to Italy, France, Belgium, and into Germany. So the whole bit,
Yeah. And how did you meet your late husband? How did you meet your late husband?
I met him. They were in because we had to learn English in the gymnasium, whether you liked it or not. I said, who the hell wants to learn English anyhow? So and then they wanted they had flyers going from door to door or whatever, wanting English-speaking Germans because they were setting up all kinds of ordnance depots, and they needed personnel to run, so they wanted English-speaking Germans, and that's how I applied for my job. And nobody cared about money. We all had plenty of money, but there was nothing to buy.
Okay.
So we figured, the Americans are here. They'll give us cigarettes, and we can take the cigarettes to the farmers outside the town. We were lucky if you had a bicycle. Otherwise, you walk miles. And and all that stuff. So it was. It was good. And for my mother, she got a taste of real cafe. And that's why I don't care what brand coffee it is, as long as you don't make it too strong. I don't like Mississippi mud, because I drink mine black. And
so how did she get the coffee? Your late husband gave it to her?
Then I worked for him. He had a depot there. I forgot. He was a master sergeant or something.
So you were his secretary?
Well, if you could call it secretary,
okay.
Whatever, I didn't have a desk or anything. But yeah, that's what I did there then, a lot of stuff. And all the big trucks were in and out and delivering here, and that's what they delivered. I remember my brother told me, because he was working then, just looking for anything to do for my late husband then, was there. And he says he remembers him putting a hole in a sack of coffee beans. Nobody had ground coffee, and then he used to go around and sweep it all up, and my mother got real coffee. She wasn't. She used to make coffee on the same beans twice or three times. It was still better than the crap that She was drinking before, you know. We didn't have anything like that. We made the coffee in a beautiful ceramic pot, you know, and the coffee is on the bottom, and you had a sieve, and that's why you always poured your coffee through a sieve,
Okay.
you know, a real pretty silver sieve. You know, we had all that, but again, nothing else. So, that's good.
So when you first met my grandfather, what were you thinking? What do you remember the first thing you thought when you saw him? Did you think like, wow, he's good looking, or wow, I want this job?
No, I didn't. I just wanted a job, so I could, you know, trade in the stuff that is. I don't even know if we got to pay.
They still owe you money?
You know, I don't even remember. I don't know, but he says, all right, you can come back, you know, tomorrow, whenever, and you work over here, work for me. And then he told me, and then that's, one of these days I'm gonna marry you. And I told him, I said, look, I wouldn't marry you or any other American if you were the last man on earth. You know, famous kids later, you know. Because there weren't any German men left. They were either 14 or 80.
So did your family like him?
Not in the beginning, no.
Why? Because he was American?
But after, the whole thing, you know, don't forget, we lost the war, you know. And my mother went through 2 wars, actually. The First World War, that was 4 years, from 1914 till 1918. And she got married to my husband in between there sometime. Oh, tough.
Yeah. So what made her all of a sudden like Grandpa
I
after
don't
that?
know.
Just because he was bringing her stuff?
He used to drop me off and come in, you know, and yeah, that probably had a lot to do with it.
Took care of them?
Oh God, yeah. He's bringing me coffee, you know, cafe.
So your brother worked for him too?
In the beginning, yeah.
Okay.
Until he then was trained to work with on the planes that they were building. And then, of course, that factory was closed up altogether. And then they had a big metal factory where I found a job for a while, too. But I had to go to bookkeeping school and type. I had to go to school for that, too, you know, because I was somebody's secretary then. And it depended on how fast you could type without mistakes. You know, all that. And that was, you know, that's altogether different nowadays.
Oh, yeah.
And you couldn't, you made a mistake, boy, it was tough. And if you wrote a letter, typed the letter for the big boss, sometimes his secretary was on vacation and I would have to sit and take shorthand. I don't remember the shorthand anymore. But you knew it all, and you better get it all straight, you know, and then type it, and don't make a mistake, because if you have it, you know, in printing or whatever, you had to get that thing and erase it and type it over. That's the only way you could do it. Now I don't even know they make typewriters like that anymore. Regular typewriters.
I don't know.
No, and then. That was before they had the electric ones. And they, boy, are they noisy.
Yep, they
and
sure
that
are.
school where we went in that class, could drive you crazy.
So before you got married, did you guys go dancing ever? Did you guys go out to eat?
No, we went out. We went to, not dancing, really. Eating, I don't know if we had any restaurants, and there weren't any German restaurants open yet. We used to go to the club.
Okay.
And that's how I learned how to like donuts.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but they don't make donuts like that now.
Okay.
I don't know what's the matter with the donuts now. I don't care for donuts anymore. They just tasted different, you know.
So you guys went
to the club. We used to go to the club where the GIs went to, you know. And they had everything there, and they set up. They helped our town, the people in our town too, you know. they had little flyers they sent around, if anything they could help doing, and that's the occupation then, because all the others shipped home, and Joe wouldn't go
Mm-hmm.
because he says, until I get permission to marry this German girl, I'm not leaving this country. So finally, we got permission. You had to prove that you didn't have a venereal disease.
Okay.
They used to pick them off the streets, the girls, and examine them.
Oh, wow.
All that was crucial because one hasn't spread it around, and anything like that.
Mm-hmm. So who did you have to get permission from? You had to get permission from the government
Oh, yeah.
to get married?
Yeah.
Do you remember, how did you guys get married? Did you guys have a ceremony, or did you just go to a courthouse? What happened?
We went to the, what do you call it?
Like a justice of the peace?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's it. And somebody, I didn't even have a nice dress.
Mm-hmm.
One of my neighbors who came from the Rhineland, they were bombed out and then moved to us. And she had beautiful dresses. She gave me one of hers,
Mm-hmm.
and I wore a hat. And I forgot who came with us. Just one, I think. One witness off. There was one. I even forgot about that.
Mm-hmm. How did your family feel that you were marrying an American?
Oh, well, by then they got used to it.
Mm-hmm.
Because there wasn't anybody else that would marry me anyhow.
Why?
No, there wasn't any men, I told you.
Oh, okay.
They were too young. You don't want a young kid like that. And I don't want one that's 80 years old either.
So how old were you when you got married?
19, 20.
Wow.
20.
That's young.
I was already pregnant then.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. And that was one of the reasons too, Everything was too late,
So what made you guys decide to come what made you decide to come to the United States? Did you want to come here? Or did you want to
Well,
stay
he
in
had to
Germany?
leave, for
Mhm.
one thing. And then when Joe was born in July, we came, and it took us that long to get papers for me.
Mhm.
I had to have passports because we had to fly to France first,
Mhm.
and then from there to Belgium, where Joe had been stationed last in the Graves Registration Command, they call it,
Mhm.
where they would ship bodies, and from there ship them home,
Wow.
And that,
That's an awful job.
yeah. So, anyhow, but they told us we could fly from France.
Mhm.
But then my last day in Germany, I had to go to Hamburg. Well, Joe drove me. I wouldn't know how to get there
Mhm.
to get a passport.
Mhm.
I couldn't even get into my town for France.
Wow.
I already had the one for the States, but all that had to be in it. And then when I was in France, I had to get one for Belgium. And then I had to get one for Holland because we couldn't even fly from Belgium. We had to go. We flew from Amsterdam.
How long did it take you to get to America? That sounds like it would take a really
That
long
was
time.
before jets. The fastest plane was 12 hours.
Oh my gosh.
And then from Amsterdam, we went to Ireland. What's that big international airport in Ireland? Well, anyhow, we had to go there to refuel.
Mhm.
Joe was in a basket, and the stewardess said, well, you want to go out, you look around, and that's what I liked. And she just took care of the baby,
Oh, good.
And then from there we flew to Newfoundland,
Mhm.
Newfoundland, which is actually part of Canada,
Right.
and refuel. And from there to LaGuardia.
Gosh.
And by then it was, late in the,
You must have
just
been
in a day
exhausted.
anyhow. And Joe, and I wasn't a citizen.
Mhm.
I had to go through one line, and Joe, of course, he had to be discharged in the military. He had to go through another, and I was sent. I don't know which way he went. I said, "Oh God, what is this?" And it had snowed like crazy. I never seen so much snow that time, and they must have been barracks for something,
Mhm.
or barracks. A room this size with one bed was cold, and so I said, "Oh my God." for this, I left Germany, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then my mother-in-law, Rose,
Mm-hmm.
and Jerry, and he used to tease me all the time. I said, "Oh, you must be Jerry." He used to tease me all the time. Yeah, I'm Jerry. They picked me up, you know, and then made me feel. And then later on, Joe showed up, yeah, because he had, have to go through
Yeah.
all that rigamajig, you know.
What was it like meeting your mother-in-law for the first time?
Oh, she was very nice, very sweet, you know.
Yeah. What do you remember most about her?
How a little woman like that can do all that work and take care of that big house and do all the cooking
Mm-hmm.
and the washing,
Mm-hmm.
laundry. And she had 3 couples living up there.
Oh, wow.
There were 3 bedrooms.
Mm-hmm.
Tony was there living with Kate, and who else was there? Anyhow, they were all still there. We had our own room up there too, but not our own bath. I think, as I recall, I think there were 2 bathrooms up there.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother-in-law had Grandpa was still alive too then.
Mm-hmm.
Downstairs, they had a big bedroom, you know, and a bath. But the bathroom was just like a powder room.
Okay.
Off the dining room, you know.
What was Grandpa Frank like?
He was very nice, very.
Yeah.
You know, he was kind of strict too, you know. So,
Okay.
but my mother used to say when during the hard times and people couldn't get jobs or something, he was a A1 Mason, very, very well known and always had jobs, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, probably Pat talks about it. That fireplace that he built when that house was built out of natural stone, it's still standing.
Really?
Yeah. And the one that bought it found my father-in-law's initials in there somehow.
Mm-hmm.
He must have carved them in it because you can see from the inside and the outside. That's a not one of those that you buy already made, you know.
Mm-hmm. So how long did you guys live there?
Oh, quite a while, and then we had to move up the street to Ursulita. Her name was. God, that was horrible. Upstairs, one room, and I already had Martha then.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Don't forget, you know,
That's
when
right.
Joe was a year old, the next one was there.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I went to Ursulita's,
Mm-hmm.
I had 2 cribs there.
Mm-hmm.
No, one was still in the bassinet.
Okay.
And goes up steps, about 14 steps,
Oof.
down to her kitchen. And the only kitchen she had, stove she had, was one of those old-fashioned stoves, you know, with coal and horrible. And the bathroom was right off the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
And an old-fashioned icebox wasn't even in the kitchen. It was across the hall.
Mm-hmm.
But not that they had anything that they really kept cold, you know.
Mm-hmm. So how long were you guys there for?
Oh, a good year.
So
Because a neighbor, found out that by then, when Pat was the last one who ended up in the bassinet, and somebody else gave me another crib too.
mm-hmm.
And then she says, well, my daughter has outgrown her crib, you know. So are you interested? Or in other words, and I said, oh yeah, because Pat is not going to stay much longer in that thing, you know. He had like, I don't know, a cold, how babies have cold. I don't even know what you call it then, you know.
Wasn't he born with some issues?
Yeah.
Wasn't that was a tough pregnancy, or that was a tough delivery, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was born upside down, but that has nothing to do with the rest that he had.
Okay.
He had a belly button that was out like that. And my mother-in-law showed me what to do with you. I think you put a 50-cent piece or something on it and then tape it.
Okay.
and then it just grows back in. And he had sniffles, so always like cold, and he always slept on his left side.
He still does.
And yeah, but then his one side, when you look at him, was flat. And I tried to turn him over. You gotta go, you have to get on that side. Next time I look, it's turned over again, But then it finally outgrew that whole thing.
Wow.
Oh,
So when did you move to the next place? Because 3 years later, right, you had Aunt Annalisa?
yeah. Wait a minute. I even forgot where we moved to.
When were you guys where was Bible Street? Was that Grandma Rose's? What was on Bible Street?
Oh, that's the Italians. This mostly, it's like Little Italy.